again. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Unit 2 in the teaching profession. Today, we will be discussing about the historical perspectives of the Philippine educational system, okay? What is the kind of education that we received in the past during the Spanish times? What is the background of education during the pre-colonial times, in the Americanized education, and in the Japanese occupation? So I'll be presenting a PowerPoint for everybody, okay, which we can use to summarize our lesson in the teaching profession, particularly on the historical perspectives of the Philippine educational system. Now, why is it important that we study the historical perspectives of educational system here in the Philippines? Now, ladies and gentlemen, sabi nga nila, no, kahit sabihin nilang past is past, okay? Nakalimutan mo na ang past. But in reality, no, the past is a very important framework that we should have in order to understand the present. Okay? Katulad ngayon, tayo ay merong K-12 curriculum, but in the past, hindi naman K-12 ang ating curriculum. So, we have to study and examine the situations that enabled, okay, the transition or the changes that has happened in our educational system throughout the years. Okay? That is why it is important to study the historical perspective, because in that way, we can understand why do we have these present situations? Why do we have these current situations? Well, because of the things that has happened in the past. So let us study and let us begin studying the history of the Philippine educational system in the pre-Spanish era. Okay, so by saying pre-Spanish era, by saying pre-Spanish era, we mean here the pre-colonial period. Okay, bago dumating ang mga Espanyol sa Pilipinas. That is what we mean by the pre-colonial period. Now, just a backgrounder, there are three nations or foreign nations that fully colonize our country. That is the Spaniards, Spain, America, and then we have Japan. Okay, but along the way during the Spanish occupation, there is one foreign nation that attempted to overthrow the Spanish occupation in the country. That is Great Britain. So in the history of the Philippines, nasakop tayo ng mga British 1700s. I'm not sure about the dates, but they stayed here. They stayed in Manila and attempted to overthrow the Spanish occupation, but that did not last long. Okay, so aside from the Spanish and the Japanese and the Americans, the British has a short stay in the Philippines. All right. So anyway, let's talk about the pre-Spanish era. So alam naman natin lahat na during the pre-colonial period, there was no formal education in the Philippines. Okay, there was no formal education in the Philippines. Our society is mainly designed for survival. Okay, we are governed by a datu. Okay, by a datu, but the datu is for the Visayas region. Meron din tayong Lakan, Sultan, and Raha. But all these names refer to a chief, refer to a leader in the society. Okay, we have the Babaylan in the Visayan, but in contrary with the common conception, no, the Babaylan in the Visayan region may not be a girl. Okay? Sabi kasi ng nakararami, ang mga babaylan usually ay mga kababaihan. But in the Visayan region, it may not be a female. Okay? It may not be a female. But the babaylan can be male, it can be female, or male transvestite. Okay? So makikita natin dito na meron ng mga that we acknowledge the presence of LGBT in the past. Okay, because the male transvestite can be part or can become a babaylan. So in the past, babaylan are not exclusively female, but there are records in history that would tell us that the babaylan can be male, female, or male transvestites. Okay? But most of the babaylan actually are female. So anong ginagawa ng mga babaylan? The babaylan are actually advisors. Okay, the babaylan gives advices to the datu about their reigns, about their decisions that they have to do in the community. Okay, they are also medical workers. They are consulted whenever someone has contracted a disease in the community, and they give advices on how that disease can be cured. So those works are assigned to a babaylan. And then also one figure in the pre-colonial Philippines is the Umalohokan. The Umalohokan is a town crier. Okay? Siya yung Facebook noong unang panahon. Siya yung TV noong unang panahon. Kasi nga, siya ang nagbibigay at nagpapakalat ng impormasyon na nagmula sa datu, na nagmula sa raha sa buong komunidad. So, the Umalohokan refers to the town criers of the ancient Philippine barangay. They were responsible for going around and making people aware of new laws and policies enacted by the datu or chieftain. Okay? So we have the Datu, we have the Babaylan, we have the Umalohokan. These figures in the pre-colonial society in the Philippines play a very important role. Okay? Because there are no teachers before. Wala kang matatawag na teachers. Although we had informal teachers. Okay? So who were the teachers during the pre-colonial period? Now, the pre-colonial period, consider the parents as teachers. So yung mga magulang ang nagtumata yung mga guro noong unang panahon. Okay, noong unang panahon during the pre-Spanish era. And the girls and the boys have separate lessons. Hindi siya formal pero informal. So sa bahay sila nagkakaroon ng pagkatuto. Sa bahay at sa kagubatan, sa labas nagaganap ang pagkatuto ng bata. But there are no formal subjects. The male are intended to know about farming, okay, about hunting, works in the forest. So those are the things that they learn outside. While the female are expected to learn household chores, okay, they're expected to be taught by their parents on how to do household chores. All right, so that is how we can differentiate the expected roles of female and male in the past. So sabi dito, no, as early as in pre-Magellanic times, education was informal, unstructured, and devoid of method. So it is informal, unlike formal methods of education. There is no set subject, there is no set time. So whatever they can study for this day, they can study that. So in other words, kung anong gustong ituro ng mga magulang nila, okay, ng tatay at nanay nila sa kanilang mga anak, yun yung pag-aaralan nila. And most of the things that they study are not formal, but they aim for survival. So the parents teach their children on how to survive, okay? The survival skills, the survival lessons. Okay? So paano manatiling buhay? At ano nga ba ang mga kailangan ng tao para manatiling buhay? They need to know how to cook food, they need to know how to find food, they need to know how to hunt food, they need to know how to sew their clothing, to build their houses. So these things are what we need for survival. And the curriculum before was based on what do our children need for their survival, right? So, is everybody able to hear me? Kung merong mga hindi nakakarinig, maaring mahina ang internet sa atin. Huwag kayong mag-alala kasi nga naka-record itong video na ito and I will be uploading it in YouTube so that kung meron kayong mga na-miss na points, pwede nyong panoorin ulit sa aking YouTube channel. Okay, so just bear with us. Just bear with us. I know we have different situations, but I'm trying my best to deliver the instruction to you. Okay. Now, let's talk about this one, informal education nga. All right? So they did not have an organized system of education. Okay? Walang organized system of education. In summary, our pre-Spanish education was aiming towards survival, kung paano mabuhay sa mundo. Okay? Yung mga tinuturo ng mga magulang sa kanilang mga anak. It's for conformity purposes, to conform with the standards of the society, because the society dictates that this is the culture, this is the norm, this should be the values and beliefs that should be strengthened in the community. So the leaders of the community is aiming for the preservation of those beliefs, and practices. Yeah, yun yung tinatawag nating enculturation. So that one person will develop the culture, will learn the culture of the community. So if you are a new member of the society and you had undergone the process of educating yourself with the culture of the society, then you are being enculturated. All right. So the methods were show and tell, observation, trial and error. So there were no formal methods of education, but this is trial and error method. And I would just tell you what to do. You follow me. That's what we mean by show and tell or imitation or learning by observation. The types of education were informal, it's practical, and there are few theoretical trainings. Yung mga theoretical trainings na sinasabi dito refers to the indigenous knowledge and practices that our ancestors had before. So oral traditions, yung mga rituals, yung mga prayers, yung mga ginagawa pag may kasal, pag may namamatay, those are what we call theoretical trainings. And the practical ones are the practices. Okay? Paano magluto, paano mag-preserve ng pagkain, paano gamitin ang mga halaman sa panggamot ng mga may sakit. Those are practical trainings. Okay? So yun yung mga pinag-aaralan noon. Walang siyensya, walang PE, walang hygiene, walang history, but the point of education in the past is leaning towards survival. Okay? Leaning towards survival. So we talk about the indigenous knowledge, indigenous practices, and the indigenous beliefs of our ancestors. By the way, no, we are celebrating the Indigenous Peoples Month this month of October. Okay, who are the indigenous people of Cagayan? Okay, talking about pre-Spanish education. Pre-Spanish education in the past, before the Spanish came in the country, the Cagayan province was inhabited already by many groups of indigenous people, the likes of the Ibanag, the Itawit,
Iban.
or Itawes, okay, the Balaweg, okay,
Malawig.
yes, the Malaweg of Rizal. Okay, you can only
Yes.
find Malawegs in Rizal. You cannot find Malawegs in any other place, but the Malawegs are found in Rizal. Alongside the Malawegs are the Itawit of Tuwao, Piat,
Kalinga.
Solana, uh, Enrile. The Kalinga is not in Cagayan. Kalinga are in the Cordilleras, okay, in Cordillera Administrative Region. Okay, while the Ibanags are found principally in main downstream Cagayan, okay, uh, in Tuguegarao City and in Upper Isabela. So you can find the Ibanags there. But you know, the original Ibanags are found in downstream Cagayan. Okay, only when the Spaniards came in the country and they built okay, Nueva Segovia as the capital of Cagayan, that they use Ibanag in spreading the word of God, in spreading Christianity as lingua franca. Kaya nung nilipat ang seat of capital sa Tuguegarao, so from Lalo, Nueva Segovia to Tuguegarao, ang ginamit na lengguwahe ay Ibanag. Kaya naging Ibanag ang mga tao sa Tuguegarao. But originally, no, magtataka ka, bakit ang Tuguegarao ay Ibanag, pero yung mga towns surrounding Tuguegarao are Itawit-speaking towns like Igig, like Solana, like Enrile, like Peña Blanca. These are Ibanag-speaking towns, but these are Itawit-speaking towns, but Tuguegarao is an Ibanag city. Well, because of the transition of the capital of Cagayan from Lalo, okay, Nueva Segovia to Tuguegarao, the friars used Ibanag in spreading the word of God, and that's why Tuguegarao was developed into a Ibanag city. Okay, so talking about that, no, we have our baybayin script. Okay, sabi kasi nila noong unang panahon, bago dumating ang mga Espanyol dito, the Filipinos are barbaric people. The Filipinos do not have a system, how do you call this? A uh, a civilized society. Okay? Wala tayong sibilisasyon, sabi ng mga Espanyol nung dumating sila sa atin. But in fact, no, it's not true. Okay? It's not true because prior to them going to our country, we have established okay, our own system of government. We have established our own system of writing, and we call that baybayin. Okay, we call that baybayin. And baybayin is a ancient script of the Filipinos, okay, of the Tagalog people in specifically, okay. By the way, no, sa inyong module, sinabi diyan yung alibata, okay, the first ancient script, okay, of the Filipinos is called alibata. But I'm my bad, okay? I stand to be corrected. There, it is not alibata. There is no sufficient basis to call our ancient script as alibata. The correct term is called baybayin. Okay, the correct term is called baybayin. I'd like to correct your module. I just borrowed that module from a resource in the internet. I failed to screen the things that are included in your module, but please do correct your schema. Okay, it's not alibata. So if that happens to come out in the licensure exam, no, the correct term in reference with our writing system before what is baybayin. Okay, baybayin. Okay, hindi siya alibata. Walang sapat na basehan. Meron kasing isang historian na nagsabi na it is alibata from alif bata, which is an Arabic term, but he did not explain bakit siya tinawag na alibata. So there is no sufficient basis to call our system of writing before as alibata. So it's now called the accepted. Okay, most historians would accept the term baybayin and not alibata. So we have three vowels in the baybayin script. Okay, we have three vowels in the baybayin script. A, E, O. So yung E ay kasama ng E at yung U ay kasama ng O. So what I'm trying to point out here, guys, is that the presence of the baybayin script would defunct the idea that prior to the Spaniards coming to the Philippines, uncivilized ang communities natin. That is not true. Okay? That is not true. The Filipinos have been doing businesses with the Japanese, with the Chinese, before the Spaniards came in the country. And that is a manifestation that our society was already civilized. Our society has developed its own community, okay, of communal beliefs and traditions. And we were able to transact with other nations even before the Spaniards came in the country. Okay? So what happened when the Spaniards came in the country? So yung ating social classes nabago. Okay, nabago yung social classes ng ating bansa nung dumating sila sa ating bansa, nung dumating ang mga Espanyol sa bansa natin. Because of these social classes, it affected the access of education by the Filipinos. So meron tayong mga peninsulares, ang mga peninsulares natin, ito yung mga Espanyol na nandito sa Pilipinas. They were born in Spain, but they transferred to the Philippines. So we call them peninsulares. Ang mga insulares naman ay yung mga Espanyol na pinanganak sa Pilipinas. So yung mga Espanyol na dumayo sa Pilipinas, but they were born in Spain, they were called peninsulares. But those who are born in the Philippines, but their parents are both Spaniards, we call them as insulares. Okay? So the insulares allegedly have lower social status than those who are originally born in Spain, right? And then we have the middle class. We have the Spanish mestizos, the Principalia, and the Chinese mestizos, and the lower class were the Indios. Okay, ito yung mga Pilipino mismo. Okay, mga Pilipino, mga Indio. Okay, kaya nga meron tayong palabas na Indio referring to Filipinos. Andres Bonifacio was called an Indio. Okay, so Filipinos whose parents are Filipinos, okay, whose parents are traditionally from the Philippines, they were called Indio. So makikita natin no na nasa baba tayo, nasa baba sila ng social class. So ang nasa taas ay yung mga dayuhan. Okay, ganun klase ng sistema ng society ang meron tayo nung panahon ng mga Espanyol. At nakaapekto ba ito sa klase ng edukasyon na meron tayo noon? Obviously, yes. It did affect, okay, the quality of education that the Filipinos received during the Spanish era. So what was the curriculum during the Spanish era. Ano yung sentro ng curriculum nung panahon ng mga Espanyol? So, kung matatandaan nyo, itinuro sa atin nung elementarya na isa sa pinaka-contribution ng mga Espanyol sa Pilipinas ay ang relihiyon. And that's true. Okay? That is the center. Okay? In fact, that is the center of the curriculum of the Spaniards when during their time. Kung titignan natin ang slide na mag-summarize, no? Ayan, no? It's religion plus education. Sorry. Just PowerPoint and ano yung pagka-edit, pagka-encode. But this is religion. Okay? So the Spanish curriculum tries to intermarry, okay, to overlap religion and education. So ang focus ng edukasyon ng panahon ng mga Espanyol ay nasa relihiyon. Okay? Reading, writing, and catechism. So they want to spread the value of religion to the society, and they use that to allure or to increase the affinity of the Filipinos to our Spanish rulers. So these were some of the things that you need to know about the Spanish era education. So noong panahon ng mga Espanyol, talaga that the Filipinos had lower access to education. But this changed when the Royal Decree of 1863 was passed into law. Okay? Ano itong Royal Decree or Educational Decree of 1863? Noong panahon na yan, inutos ng gobyerno ng Espanya na magtayo sa Pilipinas ng isang eskwelahan para sa lalaki at para sa babae sa bawat bayan. Okay? So Educational Decree of 1863 provided the establishment for at least one primary school for boys and girls in each town. Okay, in each town. Before that, wala eh. Okay, ilan lamang ang mga eskwelahan at ilan lamang ang mga Pilipino na nakakapasok sa eskwelahan. So, in fact, Jose Rizal was a product of Educational Decree of 1863. Kung mapapansin natin sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas, in the turn of the 20th century, from 1863 forward, okay, 1880s, 1870s, dito natin naririnig yung mga pangalan ni Graciano Lopez Haina, pangalan nila Andres Bonifacio, nila Marcelo H. Del Pilar, yung mga tinatawag nating propagandista. Okay? Dahil sa panahon na yan, bago yan nangyari, okay, nagkaroon ng Decree of 1863 kung saan nagkaroon ng pagtatayo ng eskwelahan sa bawat bayan. Okay? So sa mga pagkakataon na yon, nagkaroon ng tsansa ang mga Indio, okay, ang mga tunay na Pilipino para makapag-aral. And that is the reason why we have the propagandista, okay, in 1880s, in 1890s. Okay, so bukod doon, no, isa yan sa factor kung bakit nagkaroon tayo ng mga enlightenment tungkol sa ating bayan, tungkol sa ating pagiging Pilipino. Okay? So, in other words, people, the Philippines is one of the first countries in Asia who had a public education system. Okay? And that's one thing we can be grateful for in Spain. We can be grateful for what they've done about our public education system. So in Asia, we were one of the first countries. I think it's Japan who had the first one. So we were one of the first countries who had a public education system. So it is not true that the Americans started the public education system. They formalized it, okay? They formalized it, but the public education system in the country began during the time of the Spaniards. Okay, during the time of the Spaniards. Now, however, ang daming mga issues na kaakibat nitong Educational Decree of 1863. Kaya lumipad si Jose Rizal sa ibang bansa kasi hindi siya satisfied sa uri ng edukasyon na nakukuha niya sa Pilipinas. So he decided to fly to Madrid, okay? To go to Madrid, Spain, and continue his studies in Madrid. Okay? But why is that so? Because Rizal was not contented in the way he was educated in the Philippines, particularly in the University of Santo Tomas. Okay, so he attended school in the University of Santo Tomas, but he was so discontented. He was dissatisfied with the kind of education he was receiving. Well, particularly because these issues are true. Okay, una, the classrooms were inadequate. Okay, there were no sufficient classrooms. Although there are schools per town, but these classrooms are not sufficient. Teachers tend to use corporal punishment, but because it's traditional teaching. The friars, okay, the teachers before were friars, ha? Sabi nga nila, no, the friars were even powerful, were more powerful, were even more powerful than the gobernador general. Okay? If you can remember, the gobernador general is the highest position that is occupied in the Spanish government in the Philippines. So, sabi nila, the friars were even powerful than the governor general. Okay, so the friars exercise control over the school. So sila nagturo, sila ang naging teachers nung mga panahon na yun. Okay, so schools were often poorly equipped, lacking desks, chairs, and writing materials. Okay, well, we cannot blame the Spanish government because of that. Well, because we are just starting. So the establishment of the schools are just starting anyway. Kaya it undergoes a series of development. But what we can be thankful for is that they started public education in the Philippines. Okay, so until such time that the Americans formalized the public education in the country, thanks to Educational Decree of 1863. So anong mga pinag-aaralan ng mga panahon na yon? Okay, kung titignan natin, ito yung curriculum nila ng mga panahon ng mga Espanyol. Christian doctrine, number 1, values, history, reading and writing in Spanish, so mathematics, agriculture, good etiquette, singing, world geography, Spanish history. Kung mapapansin nyo dyan, walang Filipinized subjects. Okay? Kaya nawalan ng kamalayan ang mga Pilipino kung sino nga ba ang isang Pilipino. Paano nga ba maging nationalistic until such time that we were able to develop that sense of nationhood when the revolution started to grow, okay, and when Americans started to overthrow the Spanish occupation in the country, right? So let's talk about the schools built by the Spaniards. It was believed that the first school in the Philippines was situated in Cebu. This is not 1565. This is supposed to be 1595. Okay, 1595. This is Colegio de San Ignacio. Yan. Yan. So Colegio de San Ignacio, which was established by the Jesuits in Manila in 1589. This is the first college school for boys. Okay, the first college school for boys. Yung sinasabi ko pala kanina is Colegio de San Ildefonso. I'm sorry ha. Colegio de San Ildefonso in Cebu. Okay, in Cebu. But the first school for boys was Colegio de San Ignacio. Okay? And then its counterpart naman, okay, for girls is Colegio de Santa Potenciana. Okay? I repeat, lumalabas kasi ito sa licensure exams, no? The first school that was established for boys was Colegio de San Ignacio in Manila, while the first school for girls established was Colegio de Santa Potenciana. Before, magkaiba ang eskwelahan ng babae at ng mga lalaki. So, hindi co-ed ang pag-aaral ng panahon ng mga Espanyol. So, we have Colegio de Santa Potenciana for girls and Colegio de San Ignacio for boys. Aside from that, we have the Colegio de San Ildefonso na ngayon ay tinatawag ng University of San Carlos. Ito ay itinayo sa Cebu, okay? Noong 1595. Alright, so it was first called Colegio de San Ildefonso, but today it is now called as University of San Carlos. It's even older than the University of Santo Tomas. Okay, it's even older than the University of Santo Tomas. Yan, ito ngayon ang itsura ng Colegio de San Ildefonso. This is University of San Carlos in Cebu. Philippines. Now, aside from this, we have Escuela Pia de Manila, yung tinatawag natin ngayong Ateneo de Manila. Okay? It's the third oldest university in the Philippines. What is the oldest university in the Philippines? The oldest is University of Santo Tomas. Okay?
Santo
University of Santo Tomas. And it's not only the oldest in the Philippines,
Tomas.
but it is believed that UST is the oldest university in Asia. Okay? In Asia. Even older than Oxford and Harvard. If I'm not mistaken, it's even older than Oxford University and Harvard University. So it's a Royal Pontifical University, and it was established in the Philippines, in Manila, okay, in 1611. So it's even older than some universities abroad. So what are the educational aims? The summary of the Spanish education before? Well, to promote Christianity. Yun yung number one aim nila. Okay? Promotion of Spanish language and imposition of Spanish culture. At nagsimula na bang meron tayong formal education ng panahon ng mga Espanyol? Definitely yes. Okay? So formal education was established in the Philippines. There are teachers, there are students, there is a curriculum to follow, may assessment tools, may classrooms, and the like. Okay? It's focused on religious education. Well, because the teachers are friars. Okay? Friars, priests. Okay? The education methods are very traditional, dictation method, memorization, theater presentations. Yeah. So, after the Spanish period, we were given a brief independence that happened during the First Republic from 1899 to 1901. Okay, from 1899 to 1901. It was very brief. And who was the president during the First Republic? The president during the First Republic was Emilio Aguinaldo. Okay, so anong ginawa ni Emilio Aguinaldo? Anong ginawa niya nung panahon na tayo ay nakamit natin ang kalayaan mula sa mga Espanyol? Pero that was just brief, very short-lived. 2 years lang, 2 years. Actually, in fact, no, sa 2 taon na yon, walang masyadong naganap na development sa ating bansa kasi aside from the Spanish-Filipino War, merong American-Filipino War alongside, okay, na tayo ay binili ng mga Amerikano sa Anya by virtue of the Treaty of, nag-aralan natin ng high school at elementary yan, binili tayo by the Americans, okay, from the Spanish occupation by virtue of the Treaty of Paris, okay, the Treaty of Paris. So yan. So nung panahon ni Emilio Aguinaldo na ipatayo ang mga eskwelahan na ito. Okay? One thing that is notable about the First Republic is the Academia Militar. Okay, ngayon, Academia Militar is now Philippine Military Academy. The Philippines is very lucky to have these titles. Aside from the first university found in Asia is in the Philippines, the first military academy in Asia is also found in the Philippines. And that was the Philippine Military Academy or the Academia Militar. Okay? In fact, no, maraming mga bansa nung unang panahon ang nag-benchmark sa PMA para matutunan kung paano nga ba pamunuan ng ang isang military academy. Pero ngayon, may mga bansa na mas mahuhusay ang kanilang mga military academy kaysa sa ating Philippine Military Academy. But it is a fact, okay, and we cannot erase in history that Academia Militar, okay, started in the time of Aguinaldo, was the first military academy in Asia. Okay. So what is the aim of education during the time of the First Republic? Love of country and of God. Kasi tayo'y nasakop ng Espanya for the longest time, 333 years. So panahon naman siguro para mabuo ang ating pagka-Pilipino, sabi ni Aguinaldo. Panahon naman siguro para ituro natin kung paano mahalin ang ating sariling bansa at para maintindihan natin kung sino nga ba ang mga Pilipino. Okay? So, kaya ang mga subject noon ay patungkol sa history ng Pilipinas, nationalism, patriotism,
Ando sa tindahan.
and the like. Right?
Andun siya, dala niya yung thermos eh.
Alright, now proceeding to the American period. So after the First Republic, nandito na tayo sa American period. So we were, if Spain colonized us for 333 years, the Americans did it to us for 45 long years. But in the first 35 years, we were not given the right to hold a position. I mean, the main positions in the government. But in the 1935, beginning 1935, we were given an opportunity to lead ourselves through the Commonwealth. Okay? Yeah. So, during the American period, meron tayong tatlong levels of education. We have the elementary, high school, and collegiate. So, meron ng collegiate noon. So, elementary, high school, and collegiate. Yung elementary, nahati yan sa dalawa. Ano yung dalawang yun? Primary and intermediate. Okay, ano yung primary? First 4 grades. Grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4. Yung intermediate naman is grade 5, grade 6, and grade 7. Okay, so we have those in the elementary levels. Okay, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, primary. Then we have grade 5, grade 6, and grade 7 as intermediate. So, nung panahon na yun, meron tayong grade 7. Okay, natanggal yan nung panahon ni, if I'm not mistaken, it's Magsaysay's time. Tinanggal yung grade 7 at ibinalik. Tapos tinanggal na naman. Okay, so meron tayong high school din at meron tayong collegiate level. So, ito yung curriculum noon panahon natin. Kung mapapansin nyo, na-include itong hygiene and sanitation. Isa sa remark ng mga Amerikano nung dumating sila sa Pilipinas ay ang dudugyot daw ng mga Pilipino. Okay, sabi nila, hindi raw marunong maglinis ang mga Pilipino. Very, very, very poor ang ating hygiene. Very poor ang ating sanitation practices. And that's why, in their curriculum, they included hygiene and sanitation. And nakakatuwa naman kasi nga, totoo naman yan. Kung titignan mo yung mga old pictures ng mga Pilipino noon, ipapakita ko sa inyo, may ipapakita ko mga pictures sa inyo mamaya, no? About yung mga old pictures ng mga Pilipino noong unang panahon. Makikita mo about how Filipinos look like before. Okay? Well, we cannot tell na mababa o poor ang ating hygiene and sanitation, but that was one observation of the Americans before. And so therefore, they included that as a subject in the curriculum during the educational system of the Americans. Okay? So, in summary, this is the future of the American educational system. Okay? To teach democracy, that's number one. Kung ang mga Espanyol ay relihiyon, sa mga Amerikano naman ay democracy, how to run the government. Okay? Separation of church and state. It was educational. Okay, it was a formal education. Their first formal public school, no, but it was the Spaniards who started that. They use English as a language of instruction, kaya marami sa ating mga lolo at lola ang mas magagaling pang mag-English kaysa sa atin kasi they were educated during the times of the Americans. The first teachers before were American soldiers. And they were called Thomasites. Okay, they were called Thomasites. They were American soldiers. At after that, they trained schools. They trained Filipinos. They trained Filipinos in normal schools. Ang tawag natin sa eskwelahan that is principally designed to train teachers, to develop teachers, are normal schools. Ang normal schools ay hindi school para sa mga normal lang na tao, pero tinatawag natin siyang normal school kasi nga it is designed for teacher development. Okay? It is designed for teacher training, hindi para sa mga normals. Kung abnormal ka, hindi ka pwede sa normal school. No, that's not true. Okay? That's why meron tayong Philippine Normal University. If I'm not mistaken, no, the Philippine Normal University is even older than the University of the Philippines. So the University of the Philippines was not designed to train teachers. It was the Philippine Normal School. Okay? So it's a school wherein we can train teachers, we can develop teachers para mapadami natin yung mga teachers na magtuturo rin sa mga young Filipinos. Okay, young Filipinos. So yun yung isa sa mga proyekto ng mga Amerikano, ang mag-develop, mag-produce ng mga Pilipinong guro. So meron tayong Commonwealth. So 1935 to 1945 yan. So it is still the time of the American occupation, although our leaders now were Filipino. So we were given a transition. Ito yung transition period para sa independence ng Pilipinas. Okay? So it is a 10-year transitional period in Philippine history. At ano-ano yung mga development dito in terms of education? Well, nagkaroon ng Bureau of Education. Okay? It expanded the Bureau of Education and it organized 8 regional normal schools. So napadami yung mga normal schools natin. And then, when we started using Filipino as a medium of instruction during the Commonwealth period. Okay? In fact, no, sino ba ang presidente ng Pilipinas during the Commonwealth period? It was Manuel L. Quezon. And Manuel L. Quezon was known to be the ama ng wikang pambansa. So, nung panahon ni Manuel Quezon, inilatag niya ang kanyang polisiya patungkol sa ating wikang pambansa. Okay? And the wikang pambansa was based on Tagalog. That's why we have Filipino now. But the Filipino language is not only based on Tagalog, but it's based on many languages in the Philippines. Okay? So, yun naman ang nangyari nung Commonwealth period. So, the use of Filipino, hindi nga Filipino dapat yan eh. It should be wikang pambansa lang. Okay? Tawag natin sa ating national language noon ay wikang pambansa. Wala pa siyang pangalan. Okay? Mayroong istorya yan. Mahaba yung istorya niyan. From wikang pambansa, naging Filipino, okay? Naging Filipino. So nagkaroon ng proseso bago natawag na Filipino ang pangalan ng ating wikang pambansa. So what was the focus during the time of the Commonwealth period? Nagkaroon ng development of the moral character. Dito rin nagsimula yung CAT, okay? Yung military training natin noong panahon ni Quezon, okay? Hanggang sa dumating ang mga Japanese, okay? Well, you know, na-stop momentarily ang Commonwealth period when the Japanese started to occupy the Philippines in 1941, okay? So dumating ang mga Hapon sa Pilipinas at nahinto, okay, ang development ng Pilipinas noong panahon ng mga Hapon. Well, because of the World War II, okay? Wala naman talaga tayong kinalaman sa World War II. Walang kinalaman ng mga Pilipino sa World War II. Ang kalaban ng mga Hapon noong panahon na yan ay ang mga Amerikano. Pero dahil ang mga Amerikano ay nasa Pilipinas at may mga base militar ang Amerika sa Pilipinas, ayun, sinugod tayo ng mga Hapon. Anong nangyari? Nasira ang mga infrastructure sa Pilipinas at higit sa lahat, maraming Pilipino ang namatay, maraming mga Pilipina ang naabuso, maraming mga development ang naantala dahil sa away ng mga allies at Axis countries ng panahon ng World War II. Okay? So, the Japanese were able to occupy the whole of the Philippines. One among these was in Tuguegarao, in Cagayan. Maraming Hapon pa rin, nagbagsakan ng mga missile sa Tuguegarao, naapektuhan din tayo because of the World War. Okay, so hindi naman talaga Pilipino ang target nila yan, pero yung mga Amerikano. Pero dahil nga, nasa Pilipinas ang mga Amerikano at may base militar sila sa Pilipinas, makakatulong sa kanila kung masisira itong mga base militar na to para ma-weaken yung military force ng Amerika. Okay, so during the time of the Japanese period, may mga impositions sila about our education pero hindi masyadong niyakap ng mga Pilipino. Sa madaming dahilan. Dahil ang konsepto nila ay ang mga Hapon ay masasamang tao. ang mga Hapon ay masasamang tao. Pero sa katotohanan, napakarami ding magaganda sana na gustong gawin ang mga Hapon sa Pilipinas, pero naging negative ang conception ng ating mga kababayan noong unang panahon. So, ano itong mga revisions ng Japanese devised curriculum? Instead of English, ang ginawa ng mga Hapon, pinagsusunog nila, okay? Pinagsisira nila yung mga libro na naisulat sa Ingles at ginamit nila ang kanilang wikang Nihongo sa pagtuturo. Pero bukod sa wikang Nihongo, ginamit din nila ang wikang Tagalog. Okay? Ginamit nila ang wikang Tagalog sa pagtuturo. So hindi lang Nihongo pero ginamit nila ang Tagalog. If there is one thing we can learn from the Japanese during their time, they want to bring back the Philippines from its Asian roots. Okay? From its Asian roots. Kasi Spain is from the West, diba? The Spaniards are from the West. The Americans are from the West. So for the longest time, the Filipinos were accustomed to the Western traditions at nawala yung pagkaasyano ng Pilipinas. Nawala yung pagkaasyano ng mga Pilipino. So sa gustong mangyari ng mga Hapon sa Pilipinas ay maibalik tayo sa roots natin. Maibalik tayo sa ating Asian roots. So ang ginawa nila, instead of using English language as a medium of instruction, they use Nihongo and they use Tagalog as a medium of instruction. Okay? And they deleted anti-Asian opinions, banned the singing of American songs, deleted American symbols. So they introduced, okay? Yung meron yung Greatest East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. Gusto nilang makabuo ng asosasyon ng mga asyanong bansa. Okay? Ng mga asyanong bansa. Okay? Yan mga. So, karoon ng opening of elementary schools, of vocational and normal schools, pero hindi masyadong nagtagumpay ito kasi nga, sino ba naman ang gustong lumabas ng bahay kung hindi mo alam na meron palang babagsak na bomba sa'yo, o may mga nakatanim na landmines dyan, di ba? So, mas mabuti na lang na manatili ka sa bahay mo kaysa naman i-risk mo yung buhay mo para sa pag-aaral. So, mga panahon na yon, although there were reforms, the Filipinos were resistant of these reforms. Not because they don't like it, but because of their safety too. Okay? Because of their safety too. So they hid from the comforts of their own homes to avoid this risk. Okay? This risk. Okay. However, we can learn also from the basic principles of Japanese education. Ito gusto nilang mangyari. Foster a new Filipino culture base. Nawala kasi yung pagka-Pilipino natin because of our Western roots. Okay? To inspire people with the spirit to love neighbor. Promotion of vocational course. So isa ito. Aside, doon nagsimula nung panahon ni Quezon, nung panahon ng mga Hapon, na intensify ang mga vocational courses, yung mga technical vocational courses natin. So yan, in summary, ito yung uri ng edukasyon na meron tayo ng panahon ng mga Hapon. Okay? Eradicate old idea of Western nations, lack of labor, military training. Isa sa mga disiplinadong bansa ay ang Japan, di ba? Naririnig natin sa balita, nababasa natin sa mga libro na kahit iwan mo yung cellphone mo sa restaurant ng ilang araw, hindi yan kukunin at hindi mawawala. Also, ang mga Hapon, napaka-dedicated sa trabaho. Okay? Hindi, kaya uso yung suicide, harakiri, Kasi pagka na-discover na meron silang kabalastugan na naganap sa kanilang gobyerno sa trabaho, kunwari ikaw ay politician doon, at nabisto ka na ito ay ginawa mo na hindi sang-ayon sa beliefs at sa values ng society, it is a disgust, it is an insult towards you. Kaya maraming nagpapakamatay kasi nga hindi nila kinakaya yung conscience, yung epekto ng kanilang ginawa sa kanilang sarili. Okay? Pero sa Pilipinas, tibay ng mukha, kapal na mukha lang ang kailangan. Hindi mo na kailangan magpakamatay para doon. So, the Japanese wanted us to learn the dignity of manual labor. How to love, how to put dignity to our position, to our profession, to, in general, to our labor. Okay? And then after the Japanese occupation, the Third Republic started. Okay, the Third Republic started. So let me just give you a recap, no? The First Republic started with Aguinaldo. The Second Republic started with the Commonwealth period. The Third Republic happened after the World War II in July 4, 1946. Dati, ang ating Independence Day was in July 4, 1946. But it was transferred to July 12, 1898 when Aguinaldo waved the Philippine flag. But the first celebration, okay, the first date of celebration of the Philippine independence was July 4, 1946. But now, July 4 is celebrated as the Philippine-American Friendship Day. Yeah. So ano nangyari nung Third Republic? Siyempre, katatapos ng gera, kailangang i-rehabilitate ang mga nasirang infrastructure sa ating bansa. Let's just go to the educational side. So dito na tayo nagkaroon ng mga presidenteng Pilipino, katulad ni Rojas, okay? Katulad ni Manuel Rojas. So the Department of Instruction was made to Department of Education during his time. That's wag na ito. So, Magsaysay naman tayo. Si Magsaysay naman, sikat si Magsaysay kasi siya ang nag-institute na dapat pag-aralan ang Rizal sa mga kolehiyo. Okay, so hanggang ngayon, yan yung Rizal as a subject. Republic Act number 1425. Hanggang ngayon, pinag-aaralan natin ang Rizal at hindi pwedeng tanggalin kasi nga, it is in the law that we need to study Rizal. And then, yung compulsory daily flag ceremony, nagsimula din yan kay Ramon Magsaysay. Ito, importante din na malaman natin na hindi ang mother tongue ngayon sa K-12 ay hindi bagong konsepto. Matagal na ang practice ng paggamit ng mother tongue or ng vernacular language sa pagtuturo. Nagsimula ito noong panahon ni Garcia. Okay, panahon ito ni Garcia, kung saan the vernacular is now being used as a medium of instruction in the first 2 years of primary grades, thereby promoting optimum literacy, especially among those pupils who can stay in school for only a few years. So hindi bago ang konsepto ng mother tongue. Ang mother tongue-based language teaching ay nagsimula pa noong panahon ni Carlos Garcia. Pero natanggal, okay? At nabago, naging English hanggang ibinalik ngayong K-12, yung ating MTBLE. Okay. Alright. Meta Community Schools. Diosdado Macapagal. After Garcia, we have Diosdado Macapagal, the father of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. So nagkaroon ng increased number of students during his time. Okay. Until we have the New Society by Marcos. Ito na yung ating Fourth Republic, if I'm not mistaken, no? 1972, okay, was the start of the martial law. Nagkaroon ng bagong lipunan, nagkaroon din ng pagbabago sa edukasyon. Okay, kasi ginagamit ng gobyerno ang ating eskwelahan para ipalaganap ang kanyang mga ideals. So we have here the ideology of education during Marcos regime, a commitment to an asset of fundamental values, theory of society, program of action. Okay, so values was included as a subject and constitution as a subject. Now, nung panahon ni Marcos, libre ang pag-aaral sa elementarya. Okay, it is compulsory and it is free. Okay, I repeat ha, ang libre ng panahon ni Marcos ay elementary education, pero hindi libre ang high school education ng panahon na yan. Alright. Ayan. Okay. So in a nutshell, during the time of Marcos, these are the educational aims. Love of country, teaches duties of citizenship, develops moral character, at nagpatuloy dito yung citizenship training o yung CAT na sinasabi natin. Kung meron man na makaka-relate ang ating mga magulang noong panahon ni Marcos, spoiled ang mga bata noong panahon ni Marcos dahil nga libre ang recess. So So meron yung tinatawag nating Nutriban, yung tinapay na pinamimigay sa eskwelahan, at meron din silang gatas na iniinom sa loob ng eskwelahan. So merong comprehensive feeding program nung panahon ni Marcos. Tapos dumating ang EDSA at ang iniluklok sa posisyon ay si Corazon Aquino. So ito na yung post-EDSA Republic. So ano nangyari nung panahon ni Aquino? So nung panahon ni Aquino, nagkaroon ng 1987 Constitution at isa sa mga feats noong panahon niya ay ang free high school na. So kung nung kay Marcos, libre ang elementarya, nung kay Cory, libre na ang high school. Kailan naging libre ang college? Nung panahon naman ni Duterte. So tandaan nyo ha, free education in elementary started in Marcos regime. Free high school education started in Corazon Aquino's regime. And free education in college started in Duterte's regime. Okay? At nung panahon na yan, yung DEX, okay, may DEX pa tayo. DEX stands for Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, na bago yan noong 2001. So, nung panahon ng ating mga ate, kuya, panahon natin, okay, 1994, okay, from 1986, no, 1987, DEX yan, DEX, okay, hanggang sa naging Department of Education noong 2001. Ayan. Republic Act 6655, Free Public Secondary Education Act of 1988. So nabuo din ang CHED nung panahon ni Aquino, 1994 yan, hindi yan 1944, 1994, Public Act 7722 or the Commission on Higher Education. Okay, so we have Fidel Ramos. Anong mga developments ng panahon ni Ramos? Wala masyado. Ang feature nito ay sobrang congested ng curriculum daw nung panahon ni Ramos naman. Okay? Then we have yan. Nung panahon ni Gloria. So after Ramos, we have Estrada. Then we have Gloria. Textbooks, yung kanyang priority. And then, panahon ni Gloria, naganap din yung yung bridging program. Yung before you go to high school, you should take a test, national level. And if you did not pass it, you will have a bridging program before entering first year high school. But that did not last long. I think it was just implemented for 1 year. Okay. Yun, pinaigting niya yung English as a medium of instruction, yung English-only policy, panahon ni Gloria. Okay. And then, Benigno Aquino. Anong pinakasikat sa kanya? K-12. Yung Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum. So, nasimulan yan yung 2011, yung Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum na mas kilala ngayon natin sa tawag na K-12 curriculum. So, isa yan sa naiwan yung mga development in education. Okay? So mula noon hanggang ngayon, napakaraming pagbabago ang naganap sa Philippine educational system. At importante na alam natin itong mga ito so that we would better understand and appreciate what we are currently having right now in our educational system. Okay? So sa ngayon, Duterte administration, nagsimula nga yung sinabi ko kanina, yung Free Higher Education Act. Okay, so libre ang college sa mga public schools, sa public universities and colleges, ni piso walang binabayaran. At syempre, historical moment din itong sinasabi nating online learning dahil sa COVID-19. So yung mga modular teaching natin during the Duterte's administration. Okay, so this is a presentation of the developments of the Philippine educational system, yung history, okay, historical sketch of the Philippine educational system. Okay? So you have to read your module